something special because, I don't know, I wanted to do this. I like when Kicking Geese does tarot readings for Amberlynn because it's interesting. I like it. I like messing around with that kind of stuff, but I have my own. I don't do tarot. I mean, I do tarot, but I'm not as good as Kicking Geese. But what I do and have done for a very long time is runes. The Elder Futhark, if you must. I really like this background. So what I want to try to do is a traditional rune reading for ALR. And I'm going to do a full cast as soon as I get this cord out of the way. Or not. I want to do a full cast for her, which if you are familiar with the runes, you might know that sometimes people do like a 3 rune cast where they just pull 3 rune. Of course he comes home. Sorry. Where people pull just like 1 or 2 runes out and they place them in a pattern and that kind of stuff. So that's one very popular way to do a rune reading, but this is a casting and it's usually much more in depth. And you utilize all of the runes and you cast them into a cloth, or some people have special cloths where they've got rings or triangles and stuff in there that symbolize different parts of, you know, the universe, your life, your inner circle, that kind of things. So that is kind of what I'm going to do. I don't have a specialty cloth. I don't tend to use that kind of a setup. I do sometimes use these. I'll do a excuse me again. I do a weekly reading and then I'll cast the runes on top of the weekly reading. So I'll set the cards around in a circle and then I'll cast the runes inside of it. And then I'll do a comparison to and from, because the runes are an oracle and the tarot cards are fortune telling. This is how it's always been explained to me. Basically, you can use them both to do the same thing. The runes tap into your weird, into your fate, into like the strings of, well, fate's really the only word I've got, that your life has created for you. Like there's the idea that when you are born, you are given a destiny, not the girl, an actual thing. And it's up to you if you want to follow that destiny or if you want to... I think I just screwed everything up. It's up to you if you want to try to follow that destiny or if you want to try to work against your fate or work with your fate. The concept of making your own luck comes out of this idea. Like, yes, there are people who are lucky, but it's because they've made their own luck. And there's a whole philosophy around that, so we're not going to get into it. But I've got my phone set up to record my... where I'm going to do the casting, and hopefully this will be picking me up, and then I will edit them together, and hopefully this will be a really cool looking video. Otherwise, you will never see this. So let's give this a shot. Anyway, what I really want to know is, what do I really want to know? I want to know about Amber's, like what is going on right now in Amber's life? Like what is driving all of this, and where do we think it's going to end up going? And who's doing what? Who's playing what parts? All right. Oh, wow. Well, let's just pick you out. Come out of the SOB. All right. There are not a lot of runes. I don't flip my runes over once they're cast. It's if they're face up, that means they have something to say. If they're face down, they don't want to be they don't have anything to add to the conversation. So give me a second to kind of like absorb things here. It's not bad. her health is isolated over here, and she's also kind of isolated. I don't know how to really explain it. This usually symbolizes people in your life, like literally it's called manas. It's man is the joy amongst his kin, but it also implies that like that's time spent with people you enjoy is limited. So if we pretend that this outside ring is everything outside, and then the closer to the center you get, the more inward it becomes. This is pointed as far away as it can get from the inside. So I don't think it's referring to her. It's referring to people on the outside. And since it's pointing away, I interpret that as like people are moving away. People are isolating them, or not isolating. She's getting isolated, which I think everybody already thought. Everybody already knew. Urs over here, it has some complicated meanings. It can mean being pig-headed, being strong, being... it's a bull in a china shop. It can also mean that you're very... trying to like figure that one out. You're strong, you're straightforward. There are words to describe what I am trying to say, and I cannot think of them. But in this case, like, it's pointing towards the center, but it's also blocked by these runes that are not revealing themselves. They still have an active part in the reading. Anyway, so the Uruz is kind of pointing towards the center, but it's also on the far outside. So I think there's some kind of assertiveness going on, or there's some kind of strong outside influence that's moving in. And I don't know if that's something that's occurring outside of her personal sphere, or if that's something that's occurring to her, not to her, inside of her. Let me see if I can pull my mic down. It's really bugging me. The placement of it isn't bugging me. The sound of it is bugging me. I'm still fighting with how to make the sound work. All right, so over here we've also got Thurisaz, and it's pointing to Ehwaz. I always say that one wrong. Anyway, this one represents painful moments that could occur, but it's also kind of a warning at the same time. There's there's a way around it. It represents thorns, and the whole concept of it is that like you grab hold of thorns with your bare hands and it hurts, but you can see the thorns, and so you can choose not to grab hold of the thorns, or you can choose to put on like a thick pair of gloves, and that way when you grab the thorns it doesn't hurt as much. So it is a painful learning experience, or it's something that can be navigated that's coming up. However, Ehwaz represents the horse. It's literally the interpretation of it is horse. And the verse that goes along with it is that implies the actual animal, but we can translate that into a more modern interpretation, which would be any kind of vessel of transportation. And I personally translate that to be also the body. The body transports us around. So this can be a car. It could be an actual horse. It could be your body. So there's that. It's also... It's a symbol of pride. It's a symbol of accomplishment. It's something to show off. You know, you get a new fancy car and you're going to show it off to your friends. Or if you're a super rich guy, you probably have a really fancy sports car. It's that kind of a concept. Back in the day, if you were a really wealthy Errol or Jarl, you had a nice horse that you took around places and everybody went, wow, that's a nice horse. And you went, I know. Thank you. Seeing who we're speaking about, or we're reading about, and we've got Thurisaz pointing towards it. It's also pointing away from Thurisaz, so we can kind of translate that, but it's also pointing towards this cluster here, which is, we'll get to that. I think there's some kind of issue that's going to pop up around her physical self that she's had warning about. She's been told something bad is going to happen. This could be health related. It could just be like she's going to fall down and get another dangling ankle. I don't know. I am inclined to say this is a health thing. That is my personal interpretation of this, just because of the things that I already know. So I am kind of using what I already know into this interpretation. But it's also something that she's been told about. So she's had some warning that this is coming up. Give me a second. Now, this is not indicating pridefulness. It means you're showing off. You're showing off a symbol of wealth. It is not itself wealth. There's a whole other rune that does that. I want to do this little dude over here before I get into this one. This is Kinaz. Kinaz represents... It's the torch. And it's the proverbial torch of knowledge. And that's what it is. It's a beacon of light. It's guidance. It's the sharing of knowledge. People sit and they share knowledge when they're inside, when they sit around the fire. You leave a light burning on in your house. You leave a candle in the window so that people who are away from home can find their way in, or, you know, somebody who's on a long journey can see that if there's a light on, it means there's hospitality and people within a house that could provide aid, that kind of a thing. This one is completely cut off. It's completely cut off from everything. And not only is it completely cut off, it again is as far away from the center as it can get. And it's also pointing mostly away from everything. Like, it's not really pointing, it's kind of like Manus, it's not really pointing at any other grouping. But this implies that there's some information, there's some knowledge that she doesn't have access to, or she's keeping herself away from. And since it's not, like, you can see it's just completely isolated from everything else. It's something she doesn't know is over here. And maybe it's not important. Like I said, it's not clustered with anything else. Nothing else is really pointing towards it, so I can't really figure that out much. But I would tend to think if it's even showing up in the reading at all, that it's something important that she doesn't know, and it's going to be impactful in the future. And the only way, in my personal opinion, that you can learn the things that you don't know is to first admit that you don't know things. And I think maybe that is part of the problem. Again, as I've mentioned in some of the videos I've reacted to, Amber can't not know everything. She either has to be the hero or the victim. And even when she's the victim because she knows more than whoever is victimizing her at that moment. So I think this might be almost willful ignorance, if you will. It could very well be a willful ignorance, simply because she will not admit that she doesn't know everything. But the implication of Kinaz is that the knowledge is there. That all she has to do is reach out for it, and it is available and freely given. So this is not something that is impossible for her to have. It's just something that she appears to be ignoring, or is being prevented to getting to her somehow. But again, she doesn't know it. So it's not even like she can be like, man, my doctor never called me back with that information about whatever, as she likes to do. It's not even something like that. This is something she doesn't even know. She doesn't know. Anyway, I've repeated that enough times. All right, up to the cluster. There's a lot going on. So there's a lot going on. Degaz is usually interpreted as being the day. It's kind of a solar rune, only in that it is the day's messenger, the god's messenger is Degaz. It's joy to all. So it's also usually associated with the summer solstice. So it's a happy, sunny rune. It's not itself like a joy rune, but it's kind of a like the dude abides kind of thing, you know, like everything's going on, but it's a message at the same time. And the fact that it's over here with Haglaz or Haglaz, some people like to say, I don't know. I'm saying them the way I've always said them. come for me. This rune here is known as Hail, and the verse that goes along with it implies that it is a sudden and destructive force of nature. But after that occurs, there's a seeding that, you know, you plant, you plant seeds and things grow after the seeds are grown on. It is referred to as the white seeds. Sometimes hail is referred to as white seeds because they melt into water. It's metaphorical. All of these are metaphorical. So yeah, and then there's Ehwaz, which usually refers to the god Ing, who is himself his own entity, usually a god of fertility and a god of prosperity. I also usually interpret this as kind of blazing your own trail, like creating your own path, and then everything will follow after you, because that's kind of the words that are in the verse itself. But it's leading directly, well, it's kind of, you can see it. It's in between Ehwaz over here, and this one's called Nathus or Nathurus, and its direct translation is need. And it's, again, it has a slightly negative definition to it because it's about need. It's about the things that you need. You have a need. But the other end of the verse mentions that if you know what you need, then you can basically act upon those needs. If I know I need a drink of water, then I can drink some water and I won't become dehydrated. It's that kind of a situation. So again, I was mentioning that, you know, this one's pointing, and it's pointing directly here. And it's interesting that something that is there's something that represents basically kind of showing off your prosperity, your wealth, is pointing directly at a rune that can be connected to wealth and prosperity. But at the same time, they're both pointing towards Nathus. And again, you can kind of see that we're being blocked off here. All of this culminating, this one's the one that's kind of throwing me a little bit, because if that wasn't there, I would easily be interpreting this to mean that something basically near catastrophic is going to happen. However, if handled correctly, there's a benefit that will come out of it. And maybe that's what we're doing here. Maybe we're mentioning that, you know, there's going to be some kind of catastrophic event. People like to liken this one to the Tower card, where it's a sudden, quick change, and you may not even see it coming. But usually afterwards, after the dust settles, there's usually some benefit that is gotten from that sudden downpouring of hail, whatever that might be. Remember, they didn't have cars that got dents in them after a hailstorm that you then had to go fight with your insurance company about. It was just another form of water from the sky for them. But if you already had a bunch of crops in the ground and the hailstorm came and wiped out your crops, so being that Ehwaz is laying down, but I think that's because it's trying to bridge these two. And I think it's some kind of need that she has that is going to be the catalyst for this. And I think because we've got this little kind of trail forming here, I think it's going to be coming from here. I think there's going to be some kind of health event that is going to create a certain kind of need. I think it's going to revolve around abundance and prosperity and that kind of stuff. And I think it's going to cause some kind of sudden change that she's not prepared for. However, again, we have Ehwaz here, so that's usually kind of a positive rune for me. So I'm willing to interpret that there's going to be some kind of major change occurring, probably around her health, that is going to have a benefiting outcome, or at least a happy ending. Happy ending. Don't. I'm sorry. Forgive me. So that's how I'm reading this. Everyone is welcome to their own interpretations, and we can discuss that nicely if you would like. That's what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing that she's very isolated. I'm seeing that there's some kind of strong outside force. It doesn't necessarily mean positive. It has got a little bit of blockage going on. I mean, the spacing here is a lot bigger. It's not like this one where it's just boxed in. So maybe even we're talking about, like, it could be a strong force that she might be hoping will come in. Maybe this is something she's wanting, but it's not going to get to her because it's not something she's going to get. It could be something she's hoping for, or it could be maybe her perception of herself as a strong, upright, healthy person, but she's not. So, and it's also blocked off from Manas here, which could be in my mind interpreting relationships. Like maybe she thinks she has a strong relationship with somebody or someone or some group, and really it's on the way out. There's too much of a gap here between these and that one for me to make any kind of connection. I would connect these, but they're very clearly not pointing towards each other, so they're very clearly not related, in my opinion. So there's that. I'm very interested to know, A, what this need is. It could be anything. She may need a new pair of shoes, but it's just because of the cluster that it's in, I'm going to guess it's something financial or, I want to say prosperity related, but I mean like the housing situation, or maybe even like transportation, the ability to be independent. My neighbors are very loud. Anyway, so I'm very interested to know what that is going to be. It's going to be something connected to that kind of a thing, to prosperity or finances somehow. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that if I had like few popping up, but I'm not. But these two are very closely linked. So I'm going to guess there's some kind of financial need or some kind of prosperity related need that's coming up. And it's going to blindside her. I honestly feel like it's going to blindside her. And then we have Dagaz. Again, like I was saying, one of Dagaz's other definitions is messenger. It's the god's messenger. It's the god's holy light. It is mirth and joy to all. If we just take the first half of that verse, which we very well can, and just interpret it as being a message, and we combine that with this group, I think she's going to get some very disruptive news. And it's going to be from someone of authority. In my heart of hearts, I want to connect all of this to her health. I want to say that she's going to get some very bad, she's going to get a bad medical diagnosis that's going to come up. However, I don't think it's going to be catastrophic, if you all catch my drift, but it's going to be something serious. And I think it's going to possibly be a financial drain. And maybe over here, maybe this is what we're being told here, is that it's something that could have been prevented if she had been forewarned, but because she doesn't know what she doesn't know, or she's, again, being willfully ignorant, she's not prepared for it, and it's going to come out of nowhere, and it's going to rock her world. So, yeah, that's sitting really well with me, but that's my interpretation. So, that's what we've got. We've got warnings. She's being warned about things. Nathu's is not hidden needs, but it can be ignored needs. So again, this isn't, she's being warned. This I do think has something to do with relationships and outside working forces coming in. But again, we've got a blockage here, so I'm thinking I feel like I feel solid saying that this is some relationship that she has. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a romantic relationship. If there were other runes, I would be more apt to say it was a romantic relationship. Give me just a second. Sorry, I get really nervous when I do these for the public, and so like I get dry mouth. So there's that. I am minorly curious to know what the hidden runes are. I don't usually interpret those, but I'm really curious. Yeah, they're not really making much sense. No. No, they're not really adding to anything. So there's that. That's what I see. I see some kind of relationship. It could be professional. It could be a friend. Maybe she really does have a new imaginary friend, and some guy is a real person, and maybe she thinks that's a close relationship, and it's going to turn out not to be. I do think she's got some kind of health issue that she's been warned about, some kind of physical ailments. It's not necessarily a health issue. It could be just outward. So she's got some kind of physical ailment that she's been warned about, that she's choosing, I feel like choosing to ignore, because she's being very proud of herself, of her outward self, which we have seen her do. And then there's some kind of need that's going to occur. It's some kind of, I feel like it's more prosperity related than it is necessarily financially related. And for Amber, prosperity means buying junk. So just kind of keep that in mind. For Amber, being prosperous also means being able to buy stuff. So I'm not saying there's some kind of financial, like she's not going broke or anything like that, but her ability maybe to continue to just kind of shopaholic her way through things, maybe that's going to come to a standstill because there might be a tightening of the belt here going on. This is always sudden. It's a hailstorm. There's no other way to describe it. It's a hailstorm. It's the tower. It's fast, but the outcome can be beneficial. But I think she's getting some bad news. And I think if she had been more warned, if she had paid more attention, I don't think this would be such a big deal. So that's what I'm seeing. Again, I'm always up for I'm always ready for some kind of discussion if y'all want to discuss it, and feel free to comment down below. Excuse me. If you've made it this far in the video and you just want to let me know that you're here, give it a thumbs up in the comments section if you liked it, and a thumbs down if you didn't. Feel free to ask questions. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. And yeah, if you guys like this kind of content, let me know. I'm more than happy to do more of these because it just makes me better at it. I'll just get better as we go. And yeah, I guess I should have said this as the beginning. I've been doing this since I was like 14, so this isn't new to me. I just don't usually share it with people because I'm shy. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.